The Final Four, Chapter 11, Crispin Rice, 7:40 p.m. The ref tosses up the ball. Crispin jumps with everything he has, but his legs are almost dead, and Grizzly outleaps him by close to a foot, easily controlling the tap to one of his Spartan teammates. Crispin tries to clear his mind. He knows the Spartans will be testing him, driving the ball in his direction, looking to get him out of the game with a fifth foul. He doesn't want to back off an inch on defense. But there are nearly 5 new minutes of overtime left on the clock, and if Crispin gets called for a foul now, his team will be handcuffed without a true center for too long of a stretch. Malcolm immediately works the ball down low to Grizzly, and Crispin confronts the big man. Since they're connected at the hip and waist, Crispin can feel the tenseness in Grizzly's body. He knows that Grizzly is getting ready to drive the rock right at him. "Help defense! Help defense!" screams Coach Kennedy from the sideline. But before an extra Trojan can get there, Grizzly makes his move. Crispin gets back off enough just to leave him with an open 10-footer. Grizzly takes the bait and settles for the jumper, putting all the pressure on his own massive shoulders to make it. When Grizzly's shot comes up short, the Trojans grab the rebound. "Drive it at him, not jumpers!" screams Malcolm. "Think about what you're doing!" Then Crispin sees Malcolm glare at Grizzly, rapping his knuckles at his temple like the big man didn't have a brain in his head. So here we are, we're in overtime. Crispin has 4 fouls. He only has 1 left. He is the Trojans' big man on the court, so he has to be really careful not to foul out this early into this overtime. And so then when Grizzly goes up for the shot, Crispin kind of like backs off a little bit. Grizzly doesn't make it. And when Grizzly doesn't make it in true Malcolm fashion, Malcolm doesn't like, "Okay, you got this next time," or whatever. He screams at him, right? Because Malcolm doesn't think anyone else should be shooting that ball but him. So Crispin is still in the game because he did not get that final foul yet. March, 3 weeks ago. Crispin took a deep breath and pulled up every ounce of courage he owned. His heart and his knuckles felt as heavy as lead when he knocked at that apartment door. So just as a reminder, the last time we had a chapter about Crispin, it talked about how he works at Flying Sushi, making deliveries for extra money because he is engaged to Hope Daniels after dating her for only 5 months. And it was kind of a spur-of-the-moment proposal, so he doesn't have a ring yet. He doesn't have the money yet to buy her the really nice ring that she wants, and so he's been working really hard to save up that money. And when he was making a delivery for Flying Sushi at an apartment complex, as he's walking down the hall, he heard her laughter along with a man's laughter behind a door. And he knocks on that apartment door to find out, is that Hope behind that door? And when he did, the laughing from inside stopped. Then a few seconds later, a man's voice asked, "Yeah? Who's there?" "Delivery," answered Crispin flatly. "Flying Sushi." "Flying what?" asked the man before the lock turned with a loud click. When the door opened, Crispin looked right past him. His eyes caught a flash of blonde hair bolting off the couch. "Hope?" said Crispin. "Excuse me," the man fired back. That's when Hope just froze. Crispin watched her face tighten up like a stone statue. Then she took a stiff first step towards the door. "John, this is Crispin, my fiancé, the one I told you all about," Hope said hurriedly, like she was trying to piece a jigsaw puzzle together on the fly. Crispin stared down at the man with the curly dark hair, who looked like he was in his early 30s. He saw that the top buttons of his dress shirt were open, and so were the buttons at the cuffs around each wrist. Then Crispin noticed a gold wedding band on his left hand, but that didn't ease any of the doubt in his mind. And after the introduction, the two never came close to shaking hands. So it's a very tense, awkward situation here. Hope has been caught with this older guy named John, who looks like he is in his early 30s, right? His shirt's kind of unbuttoned, and Hope, as she's like walking towards Crispin, looks like she's trying to put a story together in her mind. The book says like she was trying to piece a jigsaw puzzle together. Okay, not a good look for her at all. It looks like she's been caught cheating here. When Hope got to the doorway, Crispin never had a thought that they were going to hug or kiss. "Anyway, what are you doing here, Crispin?" asked Hope. "I was making a delivery when I heard your voice," he answered. "What are you doing here?" "John's married to my second cousin, Iris," explained Hope. "They've been separated for a couple of months now. I've mentioned that to you before. So I came over to see how everything was going for him. We were just watching a movie on cable, a comedy." Then Hope looked over at John. He nodded his head to her story and then turned his eyes away from Crispin's. Again, this is not looking good. It says that this John guy is married to Hope's second cousin Iris, but they're separated. Okay, so they're not currently together. That's not a good thing. She says, oh yeah, we were just, watching a movie together. Well, why are you alone watching a movie with a 30-year-old guy when you have a fiance? Like, this is definitely not a good look for her. And then she looks at John to be like, hey, back me up on this. And he's like, nods his head at her, but won't make eye contact with Crispin, which again, not a good sign, right? The fact that he won't make eye contact with Crispin shows that he's lying. Crispin worked hard to keep his expression blank, waiting to hear more. He saw that there were 2 bottles of club soda on the table between the big screen TV and the couch, that all the lights were on and all the window shades were open. As the 3 of them stood in a triangle at the doorway, Crispin got the message loud and clear that neither Hope nor her cousin's husband was about to invite him inside. How awkward is that? I mean, he is fiance's, right? His fiance is Hope, and yet she's not inviting him inside the apartment. But that was okay with Crispin, because right then, he would have rather fallen 3 flights down into an empty elevator shaft than feel the floor beneath him inside of that apartment. You don't believe me, Hope replied to Crispin's silence. You think something's going on here, that I'm cheating on you? I didn't say that. You did, answered Crispin in a voice that cracked a little. You told me you were going out with friends tonight, but he's the only other one here. Okay, so again, she's caught in this lie. She told him, oh, I'm going to hang out with friends tonight. But instead, she's alone in an apartment with a 30-year-old man. You were absolutely right, Hope said to John. Relationships are all about trust, not manipulation. She's turning it all on Crispin here. He did nothing wrong. Manipulation? What manipulation? Asked Crispin. He did not get a direct response. You were out here spying on me or something, weren't you? Asked Hope. No, I was making deliveries, trying to earn enough money to buy that diamond engagement ring you had to have, answered Crispin. It's always going to be about that now, isn't it? The money for the ring. You're going to make me resent even wearing it, Hope said, giving the door a little shove as she walked off, back into the apartment. John followed after her, nodding in agreement. Crispin stood there alone for a moment with the door still open a foot or 2. And after a few seconds, when he decided it was time to leave, Crispin reached for the knob and pulled the door shut. Part of Crispin thought that Hope might come running after him, only that didn't happen. He walked down the 3 flights of stairs to get his legs solidly beneath him. Outside, Crispin unchained his moped and took off on it. He drove fast, feeling like he'd been shot out of a cannon without any nets for a safe landing. As Crispin finally started to slow down and circle back around in the direction of the restaurant, he thought about the first time he'd really talked to Hope. It was almost 5 months ago, after a basketball practice in the Troy gym, and the cheerleaders were getting ready to practice next. She was sitting alone at the end of the bleachers, tightening the laces of her sneakers. In the 2 years she'd been on the cheerleading squad, Crispin had noticed her plenty of times. He liked the way her hair framed her face, like a gorgeous picture, and he could feel the energy jumping out of her body when she cheered. But he'd seen her around campus with other guys who looked to him like boyfriends, and she'd always worn a gold heart pendant hanging down around her neck. As Crispin walked past the bleachers, Hope looked up and smiled. When he saw that the heart pendant was missing, Crispin finally made his move. Hey, your name's Hope, right? He'd asked, sitting down on the floor at her feet, trying not to look so freakishly tall. I figure you're an expert on the name, and I've got a question about it. About my name? Hope? She said, making her back straight. All right, what is it? Well, you know how in that story about Pandora's box, the girl opens the box after she was told not to? Crispin said. Yeah, she lets all those plagues loose on the world, Hope added. So how come the only thing left in the box was Hope? Asked Crispin. Hope's supposed to be something good. What was it even doing inside of there in the first place? Are you trying to compare me to all those terrible things? Asked Hope with a grin, because that wouldn't be very flattering. No, I was just thinking you might know the answer, said Crispin with his eyes on her. I was thinking you might be as smart as you are beautiful. When Hope blushed a little bit, Crispin felt like he'd won something. He felt the same way when Hope accepted his proposal on the court, after he made that game-winning shot. But that feeling had turned on him now, like the wind slapping him in the face as he headed back to flying sushi on his moped. So nothing is resolved here in this chapter between Hope and Crispin. She essentially walks back into the apartment, leaving him at the door, refuses to talk to him, refuses to admit, hey, yes, I did lie to you, I'm sorry, or whatever. Like, she just won't do anything. And John walks in after her. And so Crispin is just left at that door by himself. And he's in shock. Like, he's processing the fact that his fiance is here with another guy. And he ends up just closing the door to the apartment and going back to work. And he's thinking back about the first time he ever talked to Hope. He had seen her around campus, thought she was cute, but he knew she always had a boyfriend because she wore this heart-shaped necklace. And then when he sees her without it, he's like, okay, maybe she and her boyfriend broke up. He approaches her and he asked her about the origin of her name, because when we think back to earlier times, there's a Greek mythology story about Pandora's box, and all the evils of the world were put inside of this box. And the box gets opened and all the evils are released into the world, and the only thing left in the box is hope. And so that's the story he's referencing when he talks to her here. And I mean, he makes her laugh and blush, and so it seems like they hit it off the first time they talk. And now 5 months later, here they are in a horrible situation in their relationship.